You have two choices when you fall. You either stay down,
right,
or you fight like heck and you claw your way back out.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm telling you, it is worth every claw to get yourself back out. Because you look, first of all, you find out what you're made of.
What happens when you're at the top of your career, interviewing movie stars all over the country, some of the highest and biggest names, and you lose your job in one day? And within weeks, the man you were going to marry leaves you. And after that, you find out that you have a lump. That's quite a wake-up call. Well, in celebration of the Women's International Month, this is an interview I did, a two-part interview that I did with Andrea Vecchio that is absolutely moving to bring you to a place where you can recognize when you have some of those challenging days, months, or years that you can get through it the same way that she did. She wrote a book called Playlist, and the Playlist is absolutely an incredible book about her journey and how she got through it with her faith and with her music, giving her that inspiration she needed to pull herself from the pit with the hand of God, pulling her out of that pit and putting her back on her feet. And I can tell you today, she has risen to a place even better than before. And as I talked to her recently, she's happier than ever before. Listen to Andrea's part 1 and part 2, and I think you'll find it'll be an absolute blessing for you to learn about a woman's strength and what it took to truly get through the tough times in her life.
Welcome to the Renewing You episode that is going to excite you. I promise. Our goal is to teach and inspire and motivate and empower women that are going through hair loss and the professionals that serve them to help them look beautiful inside and out. Hi, I'm Jeffrey Paul, and joining me today is one of my very good friends, but a star in her own right. She has gone and learned life in both sides of the music score. The side of it that is absolutely high, and you'll hear about that, and very low, but how she wrote her own music to make her life and wrote a book that is incredible. You have to get this, and I'll tell you where to get it. Let me not waste any more time because you've got to meet my friend, Andrea Vecchio. Welcome to the program.
I'm so excited about this, Jeffrey Paul. I feel like the tables are turned.
Yes.
We've spent so many years when I was in television, I was interviewing you, and now you're interviewing me. So I feel like I'm in the hot seat now.
You know, it was so wonderful doing that with you. Just for the audience to know, you were with Good Company for multiple years, which we'll talk about. You were with Good Morning America. What was the other program that you had in Cleveland?
Well, I started my career behind the scenes on a legendary show called The Morning Exchange, which had been on the air for 28 years. In fact, it was the prototype for Good Morning America. So it was on the air before Good Morning America even started. And so I learned a lot about the business, and actually first met you when I was an intern and then an associate producer on that show. And then ultimately that transition, because this world of local television, sometimes we hop around, and it took me to another station where I ended up producing and ultimately hosting a show called Good Company, which was a local talk show in the Cleveland area.
Right. And it's tremendous. But you went from an incredible career, not only from the one channel to the next, but you were producing it. You were going out of the state and going over to California with all the elite Hollywood stars. Tell our audience, at least to give the backdrop of your lifestyle that you were living.
I was living a really exciting lifestyle because aside from being in my hometown where my family was from, which were very close, and getting to host a talk show, which was my dream, on top of that, every couple of weekends, I was jet setting all over the country, out of the country sometimes, but usually to Los Angeles, sometimes to New York, and then sometimes exotic places like Bora Bora. I got to go to London, but I was interviewing the most famous people on the planet. So it was very normal on a Saturday afternoon for me to be sitting in a hallway of a really swanky hotel and then getting to spend some time talking to Robert De Niro, Anthony Hopkins, Julia Roberts, Denzel, George Clooney, Matt Damon. I mean, you name it. I had a chance to sit down and talk to them. And women always ask me, is George Clooney as handsome as he looks in person? Or is he as handsome in person as he looks on TV or on the big screen? And he is, and he has an awesome handshake. Because you know a lot about someone by their handshake. It sounds like a good firm career.
Good.
Yeah, so that was really an exciting time in my life to go to parties where you would see Brad and Angelina walk next to you 10 feet away. And I was in my 30s and just loving the experiences of my professional life and getting to work with other people who I looked up to or who I used to watch on television. So, you'd see the anchors from Entertainment Tonight or E! News who often were in the same room as you, interviewing some of the same people. And sometimes I thought to myself, how did I get here? What am I doing with this crowd? When am I going to figure it out that I don't belong here? Which I think happens a lot in life to many people, where we walk into a room and even though we have accomplishments in our own right, we wonder whether or not we really belong there. It's that inner critic that starts to sink in, right?
Would you say that's probably true even for not just a celebrity or someone who's gone through the climbing of the ladder to get to a lot of accomplishments, but even the everyday person has that feeling when they walk into a room with whatever accomplishments of, am I making the grade? Am I really making the grade? Here you've been nominated for Emmys. You've gone through some of the people that you were able to interview. You were playing the songs in your mind of success, but still had those thoughts, those feelings, those emotions of, am I good enough? Am I pretty enough? Is my hair in place? Did you go through those type of thoughts?
Absolutely. And I think we go through that, whether we're male or female, and maybe sometimes we have different doubts based on our sexes. But as a woman, as a young woman, I remember going through teenage years where it was, are my clothes good enough? Am I pretty enough? I don't really look like that girl who's the popular one in school. We'd go to a party, or whether it's homecoming or prom, and you wonder, like, why do I feel like sometimes I'm odd man out? I remember going through that when I was younger. And then in my 20s, going off to college and meeting new people and wanting to fit in and not feeling like I always did. And then when I launched into my professional career, absolutely, I was working with people who were so talented and so accomplished and who I thought made so much money and drove great cars and were dressed so well. And I thought, will I ever be there? Can I ever reach that point? And I remember kind of a turning point in my career was when I flew out to Los Angeles and I was covering a movie junket, which is really where reporters from all over the country and out of the country fly into one location and they interview the stars and director of a new film that's about to come out. So it's this very well-oiled machine, right? All of the actors and directors are in a hotel suite. They convert it into a mini studio. There's a camera on the celebrity, a camera on the reporter, and you do a little mini interview. And so I flew out to LA to do interviews for a movie called The Insider, which was starring Al Pacino and Russell Crowe.
Wow.
And at the time, Russell Crowe, right, huge actors, but at the time, Russell Crowe was not a household name. And so this was my very first movie junket. I didn't feel like I had the right clothes. I remember I pulled out, I think, my best top from Banana Republic and a pair of pants from Ann Taylor. I definitely was not wearing Jimmy Choo's or Manolo Blahniks. I didn't even know what those were at the time. Because I was, I think maybe 22 or 23. I really didn't know what I was doing. I walked into a big room where there were a bunch of other reporters, and I saw a woman who I used to watch on E! News all the time. Her name was Juliana Rancic. Sure. At the time, she was Juliana DePandy, but since then, she's gotten married, and a lot of your viewers will know who she is. And I thought, oh my gosh, Juliana is here? She works on a national show, and she's sitting 10 feet from me. She knows what she's doing. I have no idea what I'm doing. And so those seeds of doubt were planted.
That's right.
Maybe after sitting there for 30 minutes waiting for them to call my name, they call my name. They shuffle me outside of a room to go and talk to Russell Crowe. So I was nervous. I could feel my palms sweating. And I thought, I don't know what I'm doing. Everything I've read about Russell Crowe says if you ask Russell Crowe a dumb question, he's going to tell you it's a dumb question. And I was like, of course, I'm going to ask something stupid because I don't know.
No pressure.
Yes. So I walked into the room And I sat down in my chair, and he was sitting right across from me, very close. And he said, "So you're a reporter in Cleveland?" And actually at the time I wasn't. I wanted to be, but I just kind of luck of the draw as a producer got to go out and interview him. And I said, "No, I'm not, but I want to be." And he kind of gave me this perplexed look. In my mind, I thought, is he looking at me in a perplexed way because he's irritated that it was just some lowly producer who's interviewing him?
All these thoughts going through your mind.
All those thoughts of doubt, right? All like, and the negative.
Yes, yeah.
And what happened was an interesting thing, because he had said to me, "So you want to be a reporter?" And I said, "I do. It's something I'm working on." And he said, "What's your boss's name?" And again, in my mind, I'm thinking, where is this going? like the direct boss, or the person who runs the television station. So I went for it. I gave the name of the general manager, who was like the ultimate decision maker of the television station. And he said to the cameraman, "Are you rolling on that camera?" And he looked into the camera and he said, "This is a message for my general manager. If you don't put this woman on the air, you need to get yourself a pair of glasses, mate." And I thought, I don't even know you, but I'm going to see every movie you ever make. And I'll love you forever. Yeah. And everything that I had read about Russell Crowe, which was often negative, I had the best experience with him. Wow. And he did the nicest thing for me. And so I learned a couple of things. One was that, don't judge people by what you read about them. Judge them based on your experience with them. Mm-hmm. And two, I think sometimes when we can manifest bad things when we plant all those seeds of doubt and we listen to that inner critic. And so here I was sitting in front of a man who, by the way, the following year became a household name because he won an Academy Award for the role in Gladiator, one of the best movies of all time. So this Academy Award winner, future Academy Award winner, gave me this rave review. I probably wasn't even that good in the interview, but it planted this seed of, you know what? I can do this. I can be good at this. So this guy, who's a famous actor, saw something in me. Mm-hmm. And so it taught me to stop. It's hard to ignore the inner critic, but it taught me to change the messaging in my own mind, to start thinking more positively, to start thinking, I can do this. Mm-hmm. I can sit with the Juliana Rancics and the Mary Harts of the world and really win in this game. So that was Russell Crowe. That experience was a turning point for me in my career.
Now, you used the word, and I want to draw back to that word, the inner critic. Is that something that in your writing of your book came out of what you were developing as a part of the overall book?
Yes. My brother, who's a few years younger than me, taught me about this quote that I take with me everywhere I go. And when I wasn't working for myself and I was working in television stations, I always had it posted on my cubicle. And that is an excerpt from President Teddy Roosevelt's Man in the Arena speech. It became known as the Man in the Arena speech. And it goes something like, "It's not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or how the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena." And the point, right, it's so powerful. It gives me chills even when I say it.
I'm going to add.
I can only imagine how a president.
I'm going to add this to the blog. I'm going to have that put in quote. That is beautiful. That is beautiful. Wow.
Isn't it? It's a powerful speech. It's a powerful excerpt. And the point is that throughout life, when we are trying to do something and, we always worry we may fail. Right. But at least you went out and did it. Even if you fail, you tried. So you should be given credit for that. It's often when you don't try to accomplish something. Like I wrote this book. I had a lot of people who told me I wouldn't be able to write it. I wasn't famous, so I wouldn't be able to get it published. I had a lot of people who told me that. Yeah. But I was determined, and I thought, you know what, maybe I won't sell one single copy, but I want to write a book, and I want to publish it, and I'm going to find out a way to make it happen. Mm-hmm. And so everyone else, the ones who said, you can't, And of course, we have that other shoulder, our own inner critic, who says, maybe I can't.
Mm-hmm.
What if it fails? What if people think it's stupid? We have those what ifs that we plant in our lives, right? And I always say what ifs aren't even real. We just make them up because they haven't even happened yet.
Well, that's why I like your book. I like your book has the chapters in them. You had drawn, and we're going to get to the cause of the book, but you drew from the very first onset of honoring your mom and dad, which to me, I've written a number of books, and that's always been my first go-to, and it's a real blessing that you did that. But on top of that, every chapter has such a meaningful impact. And then you read the chapter and it's like, wow, how many people have read it? I know that it felt like that's me. I'm there, or I feel that same way, that same emotion. And that's what I thought about your writing. But let's take the audience back a step. Here's this girl on top. You're there. So the critic is starting to probably change into the cheerleader. You can do it, you can do it, you can do it, and everything is flowing. Mm-hmm. And the other day I was watching a video. I don't know if I sent it to you, Andrea, but there was a race. There was a women's race, and there was all these women running for the Olympics. And this young college student in first, she's got a smile on her face. It looks like she's coming around the last turn and trips, falls down. Mm-hmm. Her comment was, in her head, she heard two voices. One voice that said, you gave it a good try. Just stay here, you're hurting, and let it go. You're never going to catch up. The other voice said, I can't stay here. I've got to get up. I can't quit. She got up, ran the last quarter mile past the entire pack, and won the race. It was amazing. You know what came to my mind? You. So with that kind of as a backstop, I want you to share with the audience what happened to Andrea, this celebrity, host of The Hostess, and you were on TV, and you were producing, and you had everything going for you. And then one day, just one day, the chapter turned. Tell us about what happened.
I was just on top of the world, right? I had this great job. I'm interviewing the most famous people on the planet. I'm really close to my family. I was, at the time, in my mid-30s. I hadn't been married and didn't have children yet. It was something I always wanted. I met someone. We talked about those plans. So I thought, here I am, George Clooney one weekend, but I'm going to get married. I'm going to have a baby. I've got a great job. And then literally like that, everything changed. Mm-hmm. Week one, I lost my job, and my job was public, and it was something that I really allowed on some level to define me. I knew it wouldn't last forever somewhere, but it still was a bruise inside. I felt worthless. When I didn't have that job anymore, I felt shame. I thought, what did I do wrong? I was let go. I thought I was good at this. People complimented me all the time. I must be terrible. I'm not good at what I do. I'm not wanted. When we're not wanted, we feel worthless. So I lost my job. The person who I thought I was going to spend my future with 2 weeks later left. And so went the dream of a happy family. Mm-hmm. 2 weeks later, rejected professionally, rejected romantically and personally. I had a couple of really close friends, and certainly with my Italian roots, I take loyalty and friendship to the nth degree. So, and that's very serious for me. And I had a couple of pretty bad betrayals where I found out that people who I viewed as family didn't view me the same way. And so they were out of my life. And then I had this lump on my back. It was the size of my fist, and it was next to my spine. And I didn't know what it was. And so that all happened in about 4 to 5 weeks. And these are things people go through, right? They lose their jobs, or they're unfulfilled professionally. They go through betrayals. They have heartbreak. People have health scares. Usually sometimes we spread them out, and I just decided somebody said it, we're going to pour it on her all at once. Yeah. And so I found myself as a 36-year-old single jobless woman sitting in fetal position under the windowsill of my apartment on the phone with my mother, who I love more than anything in this world. And I was crying, and I was like, I don't have a job. I don't have a husband or children, and I might die. I have nothing. And it was, I just felt low. No. I felt broken. And I remember just like throwing my hands in the air saying, what's next? What else do you have for me? I looked at this woman in the mirror who seemingly had everything and who everybody thought had everything. And I didn't know who the heck she was. And so that is what was a turning point in my life. It set me on this journey. And that's where this whole concept of live your playlist, which is the name of my book, was born, because I flew out of town down to the beach, which is my muse. And everybody has that, right? Maybe for some people, it's playing a musical instrument. For some people, maybe it's taking a walk in their metro parks. For me, it's the sound and the feel of shells crunching under my feet and the ocean water. There's something very purifying about that for me. So I put in my earphones, I pushed play on my playlist, and I'd listen to, a rapper like Eminem, who I remember when I was younger, I thought, I don't even connect with his music. He's so angry. But suddenly I felt that anger. I was living it. And so I'd start running and I'd feel all my aggression with the run and the beat of the music. Or then I would listen to something really sappy that would make me cry and think about the loss that I went through. And it was at that time that I realized I was living these lyrics, which I think we all do. We really connect to music and lyrics. Even if you and I and anybody else watching has a different playlist, it doesn't matter, because music's a universal language. It speaks to our souls. And that's what was happening to me. The music was speaking to my soul. And I thought, well, I've always wanted to write a book. I thought it was going to be like a trashy beach read or something like that. Or I imagined myself as the female version of Nicholas Sparks.
Yes.
But instead, I felt like I had real life stories to tell that were raw and honest and vulnerable. And I went back to my parents' condo down in Florida. I took out an 8x10 sheet of paper. I grabbed a pen. I went old school. I didn't even use a computer yet. And I wrote down the songs that really were speaking to me at the time, and what stories and life lessons I thought would go along with those songs and those lyrics. And that's how live your playlist, because I think we all live our playlist. That's how it was born.
Okay, for my listening audience, how about the last person I would think would be interested in rap would be you.
No.
This is not your genre, but the Don't Quit chapter, which was what I was reading when I watched that video that came across my pathway of internet. And it was like, don't quit. Just don't quit. Because that's the thing that held you. And for the listening audience, I want them to kind of tap into your source that you're going to share with us going forward. And this might turn into 2 segments because this is just too good of a story. But it's the reality of a real story. It's a real story about the difficulties in life. Our watching, our viewing audience have hair loss and they have broken images. And when they look in the mirror, they feel like that little girl in the fetal position sometimes, because they've been honest and shared those. We have many testimonies that way. But you were able to come from the ashes back to where you really found who you were. And that really made you beautiful inside and out, that no one could rob anymore, even though I'm sure you have 1 or 2 days off or bad hair days at times.
No, for sure.
But the reality is you found you found your song list, and you really started to design and play your life forward by taking control of the thoughts that were playing in your head.
Yes. I did a number of things. I can tell, and they're very simple. I found that 1, I pulled everything in a little tighter. And that meant the people I surrounded myself with. I'm very blessed. I have a close family. I know they're not going anywhere, and they love and support me in good times and in bad. And I'll tell you what, that's really important. You want to surround yourself with people who are there for you when it's good and when it's bad, not just one or the other, because you have to be a little suspect of those who just want to be around during your good times and also those who just want to be around during your bad times. So I really found this great support system, but I made it small, which also meant that some of the friends or peripheral friends that I spent some time with who maybe weren't a great influence, or maybe didn't make me feel great about myself, or maybe pulled me into a gossipy circle, because we can all get sucked into that sometimes. Sure. If I didn't feel like my soul was being fed by the people I was around, I really didn't spend a lot of time with them. And I think that's important when you're going through some difficulties in life. Pull it in a little tighter. So that was one thing that I did. The next was that I needed to do something healthy for my body every single day. For me, that was taking a walk, because on my walks, I could listen to the music that fed my soul. I could have my conversations with myself, conversations with God. If you aren't connected that way religiously, whoever you need to have a conversation with, whatever makes you feel better and gives you good answers. But that's where I was able to work my, the junk out. Yeah. Well, I won't swear, even though I think you can on the internet. But that's where I was able to yes. Yeah. And so it was good for my body. It was good for my heart and my insides. And, stress it's this silent killer. I really believe that it was the stress and anxiety in my life that caused the lump on my back, which turned out to be nothing, by the way. I was very lucky and blessed. But I really think that we have to find an outlet to get rid of our stress. And working out is a great way to do that. So for me, walking, getting on a spin bike, whatever it is for you, carving out that time in your day. So I really believe in physical fitness. And that was a key part of my journey of healing myself. Number 3, and this is really personal for people. So you have to figure out what outlet is best for you. For me, I became reconnected with my religion, the religion I grew up with, which was, I was born and raised Catholic. And I was the type of Catholic who went to church because I had to, that's what we did every Sunday. And then as I got older and went to college, I think I only went when I felt like I needed something, something wasn't going right in class. I thought I was going to fail math. And so I was like, I better go to church. So I can be like, oh dear God, please let me pass my math class. And then I just felt a disconnect. And I kind of got away from it, and I checked out a couple other places and churches and services, and still just wasn't really feeling connected. And so for me, that relationship, and it was almost, I started going to Mass again every Sunday. And for me, it was almost about the repetition. Like I just needed to have a commitment. And it didn't matter to me whether I got something out of it or not. It was that I'm going to follow through and I'm going to do this every Sunday. And so eventually over time, you get your messages from, the sermons or the homilies that are said, whatever your religion is. And again, a lot of people will say that they're more spiritual and not as religious. So if you have a spiritual outlet, maybe that's going to yoga and meditating, and that's where you get your answers. I think that's really important to have a time to meditate and reconnect either in a religious or spiritual way, because that becomes your quiet time. And I believe that quiet time is very important when you need to figure yourself out and the person who you want to be and want to become.
You tied those 3 together so beautifully, Andrea, that you continue to fill your soul. I mean, you were doing it mentally, you were doing it physically, you were doing it spiritually. Gandhi said that you can't work on one part of your life while the other parts are out of whack. Now, he didn't quite say it in that terminology, but just exactly what that's about. You can't just be all mentally wrapped up in it. You can't be all exercise-wise, but you put it together in a holistic level, and you became whole, you became healthy, you became well. And you came from what must have been whether it was, a doctor telling you, you knew you were depressed. You had a depression that just had to be crushing you with those 3 or 4 episodes of your life. Now this book gets written. And again, I want the audience to know that we are going to have a link that they're going to be able to just link on and get their books, because this is a fast read, but it's a long read. I must have gone back to this a dozen times, if not more than that. Because there's little things that you said through the process that when life starts to play out its role or its song list, I go back to it, looking at that chapter that says, oh yeah, don't quit, or whatever it might be. And the audience that we're speaking to, all of them, both professionally and the consumers, need to hear this message. Your message is such a wonderful time right now, because I think that it's just a season of everybody saying, who am I? I got to rediscover this. Or they have their challenges in life, or they're going through the age differences, or whatever it might be, because it can be small or big. But
Yes.
the reality is they need people like you that can coach them and can encourage them and can say, hey, I've been there, done that, know how to get through it. So, here's a little shadow, follow in the shadow at least, and then write your own song list at that point.
Yes, I definitely have solid tips for getting through that when you read the book. But this is something I think is important to say. We keep stumbling in life sometimes too. So I think just because you go through the dip and you come out of it, then you think like, okay, I've come out of it and I've plateaued and I'm happy. And you think you have it all figured out. And then something comes along and it sideswipes you, right? It derails you off your path. And you think, how am I here again? I went through this. I thought I learned my lessons. That has happened for me too, by the way. I wrote this book and I've had times since the book has come out where I think, oh my gosh, am I not even listening to my own advice, or am I a fraud? Because now I feel like I've fallen in some way again, or I need to pull that chapter out. I just take my own advice. But I think that that's important for people to know that that's okay and that's normal.
That's right.
That is normal as a human being to fall again. The important thing, and I love the story you told about the girl deciding whether or not she wanted to cross the finish line, because we see that so many times. One of my favorite examples was a couple of years ago. A young actress named Jennifer Lawrence won the Oscar for Best Actress. It was the first time she won Best Actress. And she's in this beautiful Dior gown and her Jimmy Choo shoes, and every famous celebrity and Oscar-winning actor is in her presence. It's a nationally televised show. She walks up to go get her award, and she fell. Ate it in front of everybody. And it would be really easy. I'm sure she was embarrassed, and I'm sure she thought this is a mortifying moment, because we all fall, and we fall.
She probably had those thoughts about falling over and over and over out of the fear of, what if I trip?
Over and over.
Almost setting herself up for that trip. Yeah.
Yes, but the important thing in that moment to me was that she got up. Right? You have two choices when you fall. You either stay down,
right,
or you fight like heck and you claw your way back out. And I'm telling you, it is worth every claw to get yourself back out. Because you look, first of all, you find out what you're made of. And all those difficult, bad things that we go through that we wish away when they're happening, whether it be a divorce and a breakup, or a job loss, or, maybe it's something even more severe, like a death in a family. We all experience severe loss in our life. I think the important thing is that you learned that those things add substance and texture and depth to your life, which means nothing to anybody when they're going through it, because it's just pain and they want to wish it away. But if you do the hard work to heal yourself, to make yourself more whole, to be a better person, to learn from those experiences, this cool payoff happens, because it happened for me. And if it happened for me, I know it could happen for anybody. You look back and you're grateful that you went through those hard times, because without them, you wouldn't be where you are. If I hadn't had that cool job and lost it and had somebody break my heart and had a health scare, I never would have written the book that I wrote. And I can't even tell you the blessings that have come out of writing it. That's my personal experience. But undoubtedly, you have viewers who are watching right now who also have gone through something difficult. And I bet if they look back, they think, well, I wouldn't have met a certain person, or I wouldn't have landed a certain job, or I wouldn't have ended up in a certain city if, A, B, and C that I had wished away at some point in my life hadn't happened. So moving forward, getting up, it's always the better option. Quitting is easy.
Yeah.
It's no work to quit. You don't do anything.
Right.
You have to work really hard to get back up.
We're going through life. There's no out except out. And that's to me is not a conclusion of what you want to do to quit that way. But the reality is that you didn't quit. And for the listening audience, that's why I want you to read her book. Because again, wherever you're at, you can have a healthy, wonderful marriage, wonderful everything. But in here, there are still the challenges and difficulties. And I think that's where sometimes, I've heard this statement, Andrea, used, when we watch Facebook all the time, we're seeing front stage. We're never seeing backstage. And for somebody who did a lot of productions, you know what it's like. And then all of a sudden the camera comes on and there's a smiling Andrea in front of the camera. Everything's cool, but behind that is a mess at many times. That's how life is many times. But on the Facebook and the process of watching other people's lives, we think everybody's got it easy or got it better. And inside we're going through this, what was the critic's voice you said?
Yeah, yes. We have to ignore that inner critic.
That's
and
right.
I think, and in life, we go through pain.
Mm-hmm.
That's just, especially as we get older, we experience more and more pain. You know, one day, or like for a week, I have a bunch of adorable little nieces and nephews, and I was watching 4 of them for a week by myself, but I was lucky. I had a little help from a babysitter too. We were kind of tag teaming. Where I was taking the 2 older ones to school, the 2 little ones were at home with the babysitter. The babysitter called me, and my little nephew Henry, who at the time was 2, fell, and he was screaming bloody murder, and apparently he was bleeding too. So the babysitter called me, and she was a wreck. She felt terrible. She's like, Henry fell, he's crying, he's bleeding. And I said, well, we hear his voice, which means he's alive. You know, he's breathing, he's crying, he's feeling the pain. And so it's a simple example, but if you're crying and you're bleeding and you're screaming, then you're alive. So sometimes you have to know when you feel the pain, it means you're alive, which beats the alternative, right? So sometimes we got to feel it to get through the other side.
I want to do a second segment on this. I really do, because there's so much more meat into the how-to and the what-to from your story and from your book. There isn't any better gem than her book, which is Living Your Playlist. And I just love the little narrations that you put in words where you don't use the bad words, but you put those impressions that we know what you're talking about. But again,
well, I know it was because one day a publisher said to me, what's the book really about? And I go, well, the book's really about how to get your ish together, one song at a time. So we kind of hedged the bad word a little bit and tried to be clever with musical notes.
That's good. Well, Andrew, we love you, and we just love you in Cleveland, but I am so grateful for your challenges, because you've gone now to be able to do what the butterfly in my book, you know, Metamorphosis, talks about. You're out now telling ugly caterpillars or people who've gone through ugly situations that there's a butterfly inside. And you're able to flap your wings and really show them the real life story, both through your book, but also through your speaking now all across the country. And, you know, just thank you. Thank you for being an inspiration to everybody that you meet and part of.
Oh, thank you for what you just said. And by the way, I love the butterfly book. Mm-hmm. In fact, I think it's such a beautiful story, and I plan to read it to my nieces too, because I think they'll love it. And I just feel like it's a timeless lesson that you write about. It's a really beautiful story.
Thank you. Well, we'll be back with part 2. Remember, this is Renewing You, and never forget that beauty and change begins within. I'm Jeffrey Paul with my wonderful joint host, Andrea Vecchio. And listen, the book is named Live Your Playlist. Don't listen to your playlist that's in your head. Write that new playlist and let her show you through the book how she teaches us through her book to write your playlist, to take your life and take control of it and enjoy every minute of it. Good times, bad, rich or poor, and sickness and health. Thank you again. I'm Jeffrey Paul.